Today we're focusing on why does the heart still yearn for that person? Now, even if you know objectively that that person is wrong for you, yet your body and mind still pull you toward them even after a breakup or divorce. So let me just start by asking you, just maybe say one word in the chat, how it feels like after a divorce or a breakup. So for example, some clients have said it feels heavy, it feels confusing, they feel stuck, angry, numb. Like what one word would that be for you? Get it off your chest. So let's look at what we're going to discuss today. Why is it hard to let go? And then we're going to look at recalibrating the system. I'm going to give you long-term and short-term solutions, and then like a 3-step recovery protocol. So that's like the short-term solution. Now, I just wanted to point out, this isn't medical or mental health treatment. If you are in a crisis or you feel unsafe, please seek professional help immediately or contact me directly and I can guide you in the right direction. Today's session is more about education and giving you some self-coaching tools. Now, last session, I spoke about how there are 3 systems at play when we go through a breakup. The first is the attachment system. The next is the threat system. So this is our kind of nervous system always looking and scanning for danger. And then the meaning system. So when something happens, our brain needs to give it a story, needs to give it some explanation as to why it happened. And when all 3 are affected together, this creates that breakup pain, which is so difficult to get through. One client described it as, it's almost like he felt like he was dying. I don't know how he knows what dying feels like, but the pain was so heavy in his chest, so heavy in his heart, he felt as if he was dying. And this is the reason why, because all 3 systems are at play. And you can't talk yourself out of it. So today I wanted to focus on the attachment system. This is specifically the part of you that forms bonds and allows you to connect. So when we were a baby or a child, we were completely helpless. We were dependent on the adults around us. And through that process, we develop attachment and specifically emotional security. And when we got that attachment, when we got our needs met, when we felt that emotional security, we were much more stable to be able to then explore the world around us. And in science, or specifically in biology, this is known as a regulatory system. So this is the brain body's way. It's like a program that stabilizes our nervous system. It basically tells our nervous system, we're good, we're okay. So when it's a need to have that attachment to our partner. So when we are, shall we say, we go through a breakup or that divorce, or basically that connection with that person, with our partner, is all of a sudden taken away, our nervous system goes into chaos, because our nervous system was using that regulatory loop to stabilize the system. Now what happens when you take it away? So this is not just about losing romance. This is not just about kind of missing that person. Your system, your biological system is now suffering, is now craving that person. And so this is why we say the heart doesn't want to let go. The heart wants what it wants, and this is also a biological mechanism. It's not just an emotional one. So let's look at, what is it your partner gave you? So for example, one of my clients, let's call her Priya, I asked her, what is it that your partner gave you? And she said, comfort. He gave me a sense of belonging. Right? A sense of feeling like she belonged in society, she belonged to somebody. We want that, we crave that. She got that validation from him, and she got that physical affection. I've put physical intimacy here just to generalize it more. So maybe you can say in the chat, what else might a partner give you? What else did your partner give you that helped to stabilize your nervous system? Think about it, because that's one of the reasons why the heart wants what it wants. Now, when I discuss this with clients, I often give a metaphor of a house. So if you take a house, what is the most important part of the house in terms of a structure? And of course, it is the foundation. And in this metaphor, the foundation of the house represents your sources of love, your sources of comfort, physical intimacy, affection, like that. And what generally tends to happen is we put our partner in the foundation, because that's the person we seek all those things from to, shall we say, to fill the gap. But now, when that partner all of a sudden gets taken away, that leaves a vacuum in the foundation. And what happens to a house when there is a vacuum in the foundation? The house collapses. So in one sense, if you look at it as your inner world, so you might still go to work, you still function as a person, you're still studying, you're still doing whatever it is you're doing, and you wear a mask for the world to hide what's going on in the inner world. But in the inner world, what's going on? You're feeling sad, you're feeling angry, you're feeling numb inside, you may be feeling all these other things, maybe even depression, maybe you don't even want to leave your room. Because the brain circuits are like, what's going on? What happened to all that good stuff that I had? And so this needs to be addressed. So one of the ways in which your body fights back, in other words, to stop the collapse of the house, to stop the kind of the inner world from collapsing on itself, the brain and the body fight to keep that connection alive with your partner. So in attachment research and clinical observation, they found that separation often triggers what we call protest behavior. And this is basically an attempt to re-establish that contact. Now, it might not be actual contact with them, it's just our way of re-establishing the contact. The other person, your ex, might not even know you're doing this. So, for example, we have repetitive thoughts about them. We think about them. We replay, especially some of the nice memories, sometimes even the arguments, but we replay memories of that person. And that keeps that connection alive. And then, this is a really dangerous one, is we might monitor their socials and look at what are they up to. Are they with a partner now? Have they found somebody else? Like that. And again, the reason why is because the brain wants to keep that connection alive, because we don't want to have a collapse. Now, the long-term solution to this is, instead of putting our partner in the foundation, in other words, making them the source of our love, comfort, and all our emotional needs, instead, who could we put into that foundation? So I'm going to ask you I'm going to pause for one moment and ask you, who do you think actually needs to go in that foundation instead of your partner? Who's the most stable person? Or I'm going to give you a hint. Who are the two most stable people you can put in there? Who can you depend on? And so I believe the only two people you can actually depend on fully and constantly is yourself and the higher power. Now, whether the higher power is God, whether the higher power is an energy or a universe, whatever it is you believe in, whatever that is, but that thing that's made the world and it was there before you were born, and that thing that's going to be there sustaining the world even after you're dead, whatever that is for you. So only you and the higher power are sources of this, shall we say, love and the comfort and the emotional stability. You can only depend on those. ultimately. So this is a long-term solution. I've done a whole online course explaining how you actually get yourself and the higher power into the foundation. So if you click on the links below, you will get the links to you'll get the web address for the courses, and you can have a look at those. But today I wanted to give you, shall we say, the short-term solutions, which at least allow you to do self-coaching and allow you to stabilize the shock to the system, shall we say, to help you to help your system to get over what you've been through. So one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to reframe this idea of missing that person. Because when we think about when we're missing him or her, what does that mean to us? And often the meaning we attribute to it is, oh, it means I need to get back together with them. Or I miss so and so, so it means I still love them. It means it's not necessarily true. The minimum, shall we say, if you're missing that person, is because you formed a bond with them. Maybe you did spend a few months with them, maybe even a few years with them. So naturally your system, your nervous system was being regulated by them often. So in other words, the attachment system formed a bond. So let's at least start with that understanding. But it's not necessarily that they were the right person for you. It's not necessarily true that you're going to go back to them. And it's not necessarily true that you will always feel like this. You will feel such a strong connection, or that you're missing them. So let's create a different meaning for why you're missing them, first of all. Then let's understand what exactly it is that you're missing. Because often you're missing the person, not just because you miss them. Often it's because you're missing how they made you feel. That's often what the body and the heart, shall we say, is craving. So as we discussed before, these are things like comfort, connection, intimacy, validation. Use the chat. What else? What else are the things that you might be missing? What else was it that being with that partner helped you to feel? And it's, in one sense, it's difficult to feel that without them. Or that you're finding it difficult to feel without them. So again, the ultimate solution here is we want to put you and the higher power in the foundation. But let's understand, let's still take the partner out of the foundation, at least temporarily, while we're kind of putting you in there. So let's look at what are 3 true reasons why the relationship ended. So for example, he or she might not be right for me. They're not compatible. Their value system was different. Now what I'll say is sometimes when I ask a client to do this, they might struggle. So what I say to them is, and they might struggle because they're still very attached. So what I often say is just make something up for now. Because even in that process, it is still breaking down that attachment. We want to kind of, shall we say, disconnect. We want the body to start feeling differently towards that person. So use the chat. What could be other reasons why the relationship ended? It's important to remind yourself of the reasons to interrupt the attachment system. And we'll talk about that here. So if you look at the attachment system, it's using protest behavior. What are some of the things that we said that are keeping you hooked? So for example, you're replaying memories or arguments, you're fantasizing about reconnecting with them, rekindling the relationship, you're checking their socials, you're comparing yourself with the new partner. All those protest behaviors, we want to now interrupt them. You know, that thought comes, should I check that? We want to interrupt that behavior. So catch it first of all, and then redirect that behavior. So set a new practice. So for example, you could do something like splash your face with water. This is a brilliant way to interrupt whatever thought process you're going through at the time. Now, I would actually say this for anything that is going on in your mind. that you don't want to be thinking about or going through. If you splash your face with water, it immediately interrupts the system. Take 10 deep breaths. So let's just do it now. Let's just take, let's say, 5 deep breaths, and just notice how you feel. So you're going to count in to the count of 4 and breathe out to the count of 5. So you're going to breathe out longer than the breathing in. So let's just do it now. So start by breathing in. 1, 2, 3, 4, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in. 1, 2, 3, 4, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 more. Breathing in. 1, 2, 3, 4, and out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Once more. In. 2, 3, 4, and out. 2, 3, 4, 5. Now just close your eyes for a moment and just notice how you felt. I think we did it 4 times there. Now if you did that 10 times, notice how that changes your state. It changes your nervous system. So even just doing that helps to interrupt, breaks that thought pattern. And then the last thing I'll say in terms of interrupting the pattern, or a good way, is not just interrupting, is actually what we want to do is journal, or shall we say, to sit with the emotion. Now, I've given you some solutions there when the emotion is really intense or really high. Splashing yourself with water can help just to kind of stabilize you. Ultimately, what we want to do is we have to sit with that emotion. We can't just keep running away. We can't just keep trying to escape. Just watch a movie or get on social media, or just try and distract. At some point, we need to sit with that grief, even if it's painful, and to sit with that sadness, even if it's painful. Being in a relationship, there's going to be sadness at some point, even if I don't know, God forbid, but even if ultimately, okay, it was a breakup or a divorce, but in the future it could have even been death for whatever reason. So we have to face those emotions at some point anyway. And what I've noticed is that especially those who are working professionals, they often try to outrun their grief with productivity. It's like, if I can get as much done, I've got this task to do and this task to do, and just throw myself into work. And that way I don't need to think about it. No. So what I recommend is try 15 minutes a day. Ideally not just before sleep, but at some point in the day. 15 minutes where you journal about what you lost. You sit with those emotions and kind of acknowledge that yes, it's gone. The comfort that he gave me, the precious moments that she gave me, the love and affection that she gave me, I've lost that. And write what you feel. That's really important. Sitting with those emotions. Now, I know, just from my observation, I'm not trying to stereotype here, just from what I've observed talking to clients, I've noticed that females are often very good at journaling, and I've noticed males are not always so good at journaling, or don't seem to always like journaling. If that is the case, it could be male or female, if that is the case where you do find it difficult to journal, then sometimes even just talking to yourself. Obviously, don't do this on the bus or on the train. Do this in a private place. But just talking to yourself and having that conversation and seeing with it, almost like you are having a conversation with yourself. Look in the mirror, if that helps, and have that conversation with yourself out loud if possible. And let yourself hear. You be the shall we say, the therapist for yourself. If you can't have a therapist. right? Obviously, you can go to therapy as well, and you can talk this out and discuss this. But at least I'm giving you self-coaching tools. So even if you can't do journaling, have that conversation. In other words, give yourself space to be able to express, acknowledge that anger, that sadness, that guilt, maybe relief even. Oh, I'm so glad I'm out of that, not with that ex anymore, or that that partner. So like this. Now, if you are okay to journal or to consider it, then let me give you the rules for journaling. And this excuse me, this is specifically about doing a journal which is an emotional puke. I'm not talking about like a gratitude journal or a realizations journal or reflections journal. I'm talking about specifically where you just want to go blah like that. I'm going through this. I want to contact him, or I'm angry at her, whatever it is. Like whatever it is that you're feeling, you're going to express it out now on a piece of paper. So ideally, if it's a piece of paper, not in a book, or at least a piece of paper, if it's in a book, that you can rip out, and you'll see why in a moment. So you're going to write at the top, how do you feel, or what is it that I'm going through, and then just write. And you use every swear word under the sun. You say whatever it is that you feel like. No, there's no filter. It's just absolutely what it is that you're going through. And no more than 20 minutes. Once I spoke to a client and I expressed this to her, I told her this, and she went away after the session and she journaled for 3 hours. She said she had such a bad headache afterwards, and when she told me in the next session, I was like, I'm so sorry, I should have put the restriction, no more than 20 minutes. Like that. We don't want to overpower the brain, don't overwhelm the brain. So 20 minutes is more than enough time just to get it out. And then at the end, after doing that 20 minutes, so set a timer after you've finished writing, then the last 5 minutes, you write a prayer, or basically you write your desires. And for those of you who do believe in God, or even if you just want to say the universe, you say, Dear God, or Dear Universe, and then express what it is that you want. I wish things had been different. I wish blah, 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 blah. And just express it, what your desires are. And it's almost like you're offering that to the universe or God. Like that. Please send me this. And then what you do is you burn it or destroy it. And I always recommend burning it, because when you watch that piece of paper burning, and you can just see like gradually more and more of it. It's almost like, it's very therapeutic. It's almost like you're burning it away out of your brain, and it's like, But the important thing here, you notice, is whether you're speaking it or whether you're journaling it, the point is for it to come out of your system. Because the problem is often when it's just going round and round and round and round in your head, it gets worse and worse and worse, and it's actually eating you up even more. And it's only strengthening the connection, the false connection, the pseudo connection that you have with them. Just your system trying to keep that connection alive so that the house doesn't collapse. Actually, we need to journal this out. We need to get this out. And here's a very key point, is that you never, ever, ever, never, ever read it back. Now, and the reason why I called it an emotional puke is just like puke. The point is it's supposed to come out of your system. But if you read it back, it is like doing what with the puke? It's like re-eating the puke. And I'm saying that on purpose to create that disgust so that you never read it. Once you do an emotional puke, there is a curiosity sometimes to want to read it back. No, you don't read it back. You then straight away destroy it, just like you would with puke. You never eat the puke again. There was one time I had a client session, and I told him to journal, and then he'd got on the session, and he was like this. I was like, oh, this isn't a good start. So I asked him, like, are you okay? He was like, I'm so angry. I was like, oh, okay. What happened? And then he said he did an emotional puke. We didn't call it emotional puke, we just called it a journal. He'd done a journal and then he'd read it back 3 times. And when I read it, I got him to send it to me, and he had written so many things that he was angry about. So naturally, after reading it again 3 times, what was in his system, he was totally fired. He was totally angry again. So yes, it's important never to read it back. So try that for 15 minutes. 20 minutes and then 5 minutes. So here's what I want you to take away from today. Bonding is biological, not just sentimental. And that's why your heart holds on, because it's a biological mechanism. So letting go is not a single decision. It's a series of small healing steps. It's a gradual process of letting go. And what I would say is take each day at a time. Don't rush your grief. Give it space. Deal with it. Don't just ignore it. Deal with it. Don't run away from it. And day by day, it does get easier. And for me personally, when I went through breakup, there was one breakup in particular that was really heavy. One of the best solutions that I found was actually going and doing hypnotherapy, because hypnotherapy deals with emotions at the subconscious level. Of course, there are many different therapies you can try, different ones. I personally found hypnotherapy to be very useful, and in fact, I now have retrained and become a hypnotherapist myself, because I found it so powerful and so useful, because it deals with emotions. It deals with the brain at an energetic level, not just talking therapy, but actually at a energetic level. So I recently did a hypnotherapy session with a client who had been through a breakup, really heavy. His chest was so heavy, and this was his response. And he said he hasn't shed a single tear. The feeling of I'm going to enjoy my life has come. Before, he was just feeling like he can't enjoy without her, and he no longer feels that he's cheating with her by being with other girls. So he can feel that the attachment has now gone for good. And then he said, "You are a magician." So it's not magic, actually. It is working with the subconscious mind. And when you make changes at the subconscious mind, actually those changes become permanent. They're very useful. So you can look up, you don't have to have a hypnotherapy session with me, but you can look up hypnotherapist and go through a hypnotherapy session and see how it works for you. Of course, you can contact me if you want to do a session with me. And again, my details are there in the description below. So the last thing I'll say is, if you are enjoying these series, please, you can sign up to these events. And I also have a library, so the Nij Dey library, and they'll give you lots of freebies. Often you get the summaries from the sessions that we do. There's a PDF journal, a fillable journal that you can use to do your daily journaling. And if you do want to contact me, you can go to www.nijday.com/contact. Again, the link is in the description for one-to-one sessions, which are very effective. And you can scan the QR code there. That's to give you the web address. So I will pause it there and just ask, are there any questions? And just if you do have a question, please write it in the chat. And even if you're watching the recording and you have any questions, please write them in the chat, and then I can answer those questions in the chat as well, or you can contact me. Next session, we are going to discuss how our mind often is fighting itself, and the reason why is because we have different parts of us, and I'm going to be explaining in detail what we call parts therapy. And often what happens is there are parts of us that were created from, say, a traumatic situation, and then there's us in in today's kind of environment, which is completely different from that when that part was created. So there's a part of us that's pulling us this way, but we actually want to go this way. So for example, I had one client, I had a session today actually, and we were discussing how when she was younger, she saw her parents struggle for money. She saw her parents always having to work hard, and she said they even struggled to even buy salt. I was like, wow. And so she has this part of her that thinks that to earn money means you have to work hard. I mean, you don't look at the clock. You don't look at the, whatever the manager says, you do. Like you just have to say yes, 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 because that's what she saw her parents do. And then there's another part of her who knows that she's capable of so much more, but she's stuck in a job that is so limiting for her. And you can see that there's a struggle going on, because there's that, shall we say, that younger part of her that is holding her back, and there is this part of her currently in her current age who has so much more potential, but is being held back. So how do we deal with that? So I'll be discussing that in more detail about how these parts are created and what to do about it. And it's understanding this has transformed my life, has transformed the lives of my clients, and I'd like to share this with you all as well. Maybe it will help you to transform your life. So please join me for that. Okay, so question: is bonding always on a physical level? Bonding is more actually, generally speaking, on an emotional level for it to be a strong bond. The physical bonding, in one sense, can be broken very easily, and even ultimately physical bonding is to create that emotional bond. If we go to the teachings, from ancient wisdom, like a Bhagavad Gita, it explains how there are 3 levels to the self. So there is the physical body, there is the mind, which contains the emotions, and then there is the soul. So in one sense, you could almost say bonding can happen on the physical level, can happen on the emotional level, and it can happen even on the soul or the spiritual level. And sometimes you'll feel that. Those who are from certain faiths, you'll know about this kind of guru and disciple relationship, like a spiritual teacher. So sometimes there is a great bond that is created between the guru and the disciple, which is actually spiritual. There's not necessarily a physical component. There's not even necessarily an emotional component, but it's like a soul to soul level. It can even happen on that level. Then there's obviously the emotional level. The physical often, deepens the emotional level, but ultimately bonding happens on the emotional level, and especially in terms of security in a relationship. So that feeling of security, validation, and all these other things which are there at the ego. The ego needs acceptance, approval, validation, attention, so many other things like that. So it's not just on a physical level. Hope that answers the question. Good question, thank you. Any other questions? Okay, wonderful. So again, thank you for watching. If you are enjoying this, please subscribe and like, and please share the video if you feel it will help somebody, especially if you know they're going through a breakup or a divorce. Please send them this video, and hopefully it will help them too. Thank you very much, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care.